To be honest, neither my parents nor I ever begged to be born. My mother claims that when she was younger and naive, she fell in love with a man who was unable to contain his feelings. Before you know it, a baby is on the way. Sheila, the mistake, was that baby. When Mom's parents found out, they quickly put an end to her plan to get rid of me. Since it was socially unacceptable to raise children alone in those days, Mom and Dad got married, and 9 months later, I was born, screaming and all. My father never forgot how much I had messed up his life. He would murmur, "There goes my youth," each time he glanced at me. I was a ball and chain pulling him down from the life he believed he deserved. Not a daughter. Mom cooked and cleaned like her life depended on it. Dad came home from work with a scowl that only got bigger when he saw me. And for 10 years, it was just the three of us living in that little house. Then Sarah, my younger sister, appeared like a miracle. The child they truly desired was the golden child. And me? I was pushed into the background even more. "Sheila, watch your sister." "Sheila, be quiet. Sarah's sleeping." "Sheila, why can't you be more like Sarah?" This was Sarah. That was Sarah. I got hand-me-downs. She got new clothes. I got reprimanded. She received accolades. I got love. She got love. I guess I just got used to being let down. I was doing most of the housework by the time I was 10 years old, including dusting shelves, mopping floors, and cleaning toilets. I have done it all. It was expected, not that I received any gratitude for it. Cooking, though, was one duty I enjoyed. There was something magical about combining ingredients to create flavors. I still recall my first attempt at making my homemade lasagna for a get-together with family. Aunt Linda's eyes brightened as she took a bite. "Mary, this is amazing. How did you become such a skilled cook?" Mom just took in the compliments with a smile and a nod. Like usual, I stood in the corner invisible, saying to get my point across, "Actually, I made it." Aunt Linda chuckled as if I had just cracked a joke. "Sheila enjoys lending a hand in the kitchen occasionally," Mom casually added, still soaking up the praise. "Isn't that right, dear?" I closed my mouth, seeing the futility of it. Still, nobody ever took me seriously. As I got older, the kitchen became my haven. Pots and pans gave me comfort, while Sarah received gifts and lots of attention. I could cook a mean pot roast that even my dad could not complain about by the time I graduated from high school. "Not bad," he would mutter as he stuffed food in his mouth, and it was a tremendous praise from him. But I had higher aspirations than simply providing for my family. I used to close my eyes every night and visualize my own restaurant, full of joyful patrons enjoying my dishes. I lost all control over it one evening at supper. "I want to open a restaurant someday," I said without thinking. There was an unbearable silence for a while. Sarah laughed then. "You, a restaurant?" Mom was worried, as though I had suddenly declared my desire to become an astronaut. Dad didn't even lift his head from his dish. "Restaurants fail all the time. You'd be broke in a month." "But I'm good at cooking," I objected. "Everyone likes my food." Dad sneered. "Everyone likes free food. Doesn't mean they'd pay for it." Sarah spoke out, her voice so lovely it made me sick. "Sheila, perhaps you could work at McDonald's. I've heard they're constantly hiring." Upon entering college, my goal was to attend the top culinary school available. Dad, to my surprise, agreed to cover the cost. "This is your inheritance," he sternly remarked. "Expect nothing more than this. Sarah will receive the savings and the house." To be honest, I was too thrilled about culinary school to care that I was upset. This was my opportunity to shine, learn from actual cooks, and develop my abilities. Baking, sautéing, and chopping nonstop during college. I felt like I fit anywhere for the first time in my life. My teachers commended my inventiveness, and my classmates genuinely enjoyed my meals. But after I graduated, reality hit me hard. I had to return home as I couldn't afford a place of my own. My family's lack of interest in me and my college experience contrasted sharply. "So, you're a chef now?" During dinner, Sarah grinned. "Does that mean you'll be doing all the cooking from now on?" Before I could answer, Mom interrupted. "What a fantastic idea that is. You should concentrate on your studies, sweetheart. Sheila can cook." Suddenly, I found myself back in the role of family maid, except this time with a culinary degree collecting dust on my shelf. I was able to secure employment at a nearby restaurant as an assistant cook. Although the money was terrible, it was a start. I would arrive home fatigued every night to find a mountain of dishes and laundry. "This is your rent," my mother would say while passing me a chore list. "You're not a child anymore. You need to contribute." I refused to let it break me, though. I was imagining, plotting, and planning every free moment. I had no doubt that I would own my own restaurant eventually. And I'd show them all what Sheila was truly capable of when that day arrived. The days of the next 2 years passed slowly, like yesterdays. I cleaned, I cooked, I worked really hard at the restaurant, and all the while I saw Sarah get more and more of everything I could possibly want for. Dad came home from Sarah's high school graduation with a big smile on his face. He exclaimed, "Sarah, honey, come see what I got you." Everyone filed outside. A brand new automobile was lying in our driveway like some sort of gleaming insult. A vehicle? I still can't even drive, though. With wide eyes, Sarah spoke. Dad threw the keys to her and laughed. "You'll get there eventually. The best is what my girl deserves." I bit my tongue so hard that I tasted blood right away. I bought a used bike for my 16th birthday, but only because I needed it to commute to my part-time work. It continued after that. Sarah was spoiled with new things every week, including luxury clothes, a MacBook Pro, and the newest iPhone. They also gave her bedroom a makeover, so it appeared as though it belonged in a 5-star hotel. I was still in my old room, though, with the same worn-out wall covering and the same rickety bed I'd had since I was 10. Well, at least I had company in the form of the spiders, right? I began to consider moving out. Anything would be better than this continual reminder of how little I meant. Perhaps I could get a roommate or split the rent on some modest apartment. Then Christmas arrived, though. I had been accumulating money, aiming to surprise everyone with lovely gifts, and prove to them that I was not the failure they perceived me to be. I ultimately purchased lottery tickets for all of us, not the inexpensive scratch-offs, but the large prize tickets. When Christmas morning finally arrived, I tried not to look too excited as I distributed the envelopes. Mom's face sank when she opened hers first. "Oh, lottery tickets." Dad laughed a little. "What is this, a gas station gift?" Sarah didn't even bother opening hers. She just rolled her eyes. "Gee, thanks, Sheila. Real thoughtful." "Well," Mom said, her voice sickly sweet, "I guess since Sheila didn't really get us anything, she won't be expecting any gifts either. That seems fair, doesn't it?" I felt a lump forming in my throat. Without a word, I snatched the lottery tickets from Dad's hand. "You know what? I'll take them. Merry bloody Christmas." I stormed out, ignoring their shocked faces. Screw their family dinner. I texted my coworker, Jen. "Hey, you still at the restaurant? Mind some company?" An hour later, I was sitting at the bar of the closed restaurant, nursing a glass of cheap champagne with Jen. As the night wore on, Jen and I traded stories about horrible families and crushed dreams. It wasn't exactly a Hallmark Christmas, but at least I felt less alone. A few days later, I was at work as usual. During the break, I reached for my phone. There was a missed call from an unknown number. Probably just another scam, I muttered, tossing the phone aside. But then it rang again. Same number. Curiosity got the better of me, and I answered. Hello, is this Sheila Thompson? A cheery voice asked. Yeah, who's this? This is Linda from the State Lottery Commission. I'm calling to inform you that you're holding a winning ticket. I almost dropped the phone. What? Are you serious? Absolutely. One of your tickets matched all the numbers in the Christmas drawing. After taxes, your winnings come to $690,000. The world spun around me in a daze. I headed home, my mind racing. This was it, my chance to finally open my own restaurant, to show everyone what I could do. I burst through the front door, unable to contain my excitement. You won't believe what happened. They were all sitting at the kitchen table, looking at me like I'd grown a second head. I won the lottery, I blurted out. One of the tickets, the one I was going to give Mom. It won $690,000 after taxes. For a moment, there was stunned silence. Then Sarah's shrill voice cut through the air. That money belongs to us, she screeched. You bought those tickets as gifts for Mom and Dad. Anything that belongs to them belongs to me. I felt like I'd been slapped. What? No. They gave the tickets back to me. They're mine. Mom and Dad exchanged a look. Sheila, Dad said slowly, be reasonable. You live under our roof. You owe us now. Hand over that ticket. We'll take care of everything. I took a step back, my hand instinctively going to my pocket where the ticket was. No, I said, surprising even myself with how steady my voice was. This is my ticket, my win. I'm going to use it to open my own restaurant. Dad's face turned an alarming shade of red. Now you listen here, young lady. No, you listen, I shouted, years of pent-up frustration pouring out. I've spent my whole life being treated like a second-class citizen in this family. Well, not anymore. This is my chance, and I'm taking it. If that's how you feel, Mom said, her voice icy, then you can get out of this house now. I stared at them, these people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. In that moment, I saw them clearly for the first time. Fine, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm gone. I stormed up to my room, threw some clothes and essentials into a bag, and walked out. They watched me go, probably thinking I'd come crawling back in a day or two. They couldn't have been more wrong. My first stop was the lottery office to claim my winnings. Then I headed straight to a real estate agent. I need an apartment, I told the surprised agent. Something available immediately. By that evening, I was sitting in my very own place. It wasn't much, a small one-bedroom in a decent part of town, but it was mine, all mine. As I sat on the floor, I hadn't had time to buy furniture yet. Eating takeout and scrolling through restaurant equipment catalogs on my phone, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. First things first, I needed a solid business plan. I spent weeks hunched over my laptop, researching, crunching numbers, and planning every detail. After what felt like a million revisions, I finally had a plan I was proud of. Next step, location. I scoured the city looking for the perfect spot. Finally, I found it. A small, run-down space that had been empty for years. The landlord practically laughed when I said I wanted to turn it into a restaurant. Good luck with that, sweetheart, he chuckled, handing me the keys. I spent the next 3 months turning that dump into my dream. I hired contractors, picked out every fixture, and personally scrubbed every inch of the place. It was back-breaking work, but every blister and bruise felt like a badge of honor. Finally, opening day arrived. I stood in the kitchen, my kitchen, surrounded by the staff I'd handpicked and trained myself. The first order came in, and I felt a rush of adrenaline. Let's do this, I said, tying on my apron. The first few months were a whirlwind. I worked 18-hour days, cooking, managing, and doing whatever needed to be done. Slowly but surely, word started to spread. People loved my food. Not just the taste, but the love and creativity I poured into every dish. I introduced a loyalty program for regular customers, giving them special discounts and first dibs on new menu items. It was a hit. Soon, I had a core group of regulars who came in so often they felt like family. But I didn't stop there. I set up a delivery service, partnering with local couriers to bring my food right to people's homes. It was a gamble. Quality control was a nightmare at first, but it paid off. Social media became my new best friend. I posted daily specials, behind-the-scenes kitchen videos, and engaged with customers online. My follower count grew, and with it, my customer base. 2 years in, I was turning a profit. It wasn't huge, but it was something. I started looking for a second location. Opening the second restaurant was easier in some ways. I knew what I was doing now, but harder in others. Suddenly, I couldn't be everywhere at once. I had to learn to delegate and trust my staff to maintain my standards when I wasn't there. But we made it work, and 3 years after that, I opened my third location. Before I knew it, I was the owner of a successful restaurant chain. Me, Sheila Thompson, the girl who was never supposed to amount to anything. I won't lie, it wasn't easy. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I was in over my head. Days when I wanted to throw in the towel and admit defeat. But every time I walked into one of my restaurants, saw the happy customers, and smelled the delicious food, I knew it was all worth it. It was just another Tuesday. I was in my office going over the books from my newest restaurant when my phone rang. I glanced at the screen and froze. It was a number I hadn't seen in years. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello?" I answered, my voice cautious. "Sheila, it was Mom. Look, I know we've had our differences, but we need your help. It's about Sarah." Of course it was. It was always about Sarah. "What about her?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. Dad's voice came on the line. "She's in trouble, Sheila. She lost her job. They're accusing her of theft, and now no one will hire her. We were hoping you might have a position for her at one of your restaurants." I almost laughed. After everything they'd put me through, they had the nerve to ask for a favor. But then I thought about Sarah. Despite everything, she was still my sister. "Let me talk to her," I said. Sarah came on the line, her voice small and scared. "Sheila, I'm sorry for everything. I really need help." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "Okay," I said finally. "I'll give you a job, but listen up. There's no special treatment. You screw up, you're out. Got it?" "Yes, thank you," Sarah gushed. The next morning, Sarah showed up right on time, looking nervous but determined. I put her to work as an administrator, starting her with basic tasks and slowly increasing her responsibilities. To my surprise, she seemed to take it seriously. She was attentive during training, asked good questions, and didn't complain about the work. One night, as we were closing up, Sarah broke down. "I need to tell you the truth," she sobbed. "I didn't steal anything from my last job. My boss, he tried to force himself on me. When I refused, he fired me and spread rumors that I was a thief." I felt a surge of protective anger. "Why didn't you report him? Who would believe me over him?" Sarah wiped her eyes. "I was so scared, Sheila. I didn't know what to do." "I believe you," I said, pulling her into a hug. "And I'm going to help you, okay? We'll figure this out together." Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into teaching Sarah everything I knew about running a restaurant. She soaked it all up like a sponge, eager to learn and prove herself. As I watched her confidently handle a rush of customers, I felt a mix of pride and unease. Sarah was proving to be a quick study and a hard worker, but a nagging voice in the back of my head warned me not to let my guard down completely. At first, everything seemed perfect. Sarah threw herself into her work with an enthusiasm I'd never seen from her before. She was always the first to arrive and the last to leave, taking on extra shifts and volunteering for the toughest tasks. But then whispers started reaching my ears. At first, I dismissed them as petty workplace gossip, but as the days went by, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Boss, Marco, my head chef, pulled me aside one day. "I think you need to know something," he said. "Your sister, she's been saying things, stirring up trouble." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What kind of things?" Marco looked uncomfortable. "She's been telling people that we're underpaid, that you're hoarding all the profits for yourself. She's even suggested we should go on strike." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "That's ridiculous. You all know how tight our margins are. I've always been transparent about the finances." "We know, boss," Marco assured me. "None of us are buying it. But there's more." He went on to tell me how Sarah had been claiming that the restaurant rightfully belonged to her, that I had somehow cheated her out of her share of the family money. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. After everything we'd been through, after I'd given her a second chance, this is how she repaid me. I confronted Sarah that evening, my hand shaking with anger and disappointment. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I demanded. Sarah's face was a mask of innocence. "What are you talking about, sis?" I laid out everything I'd heard. To my shock, Sarah just shrugged. "Oh, that," she said casually. "I was just testing the staff's loyalty, you know? Making sure they wouldn't turn on you. Looks like they passed with flying colors." I wanted to believe her. God, how I wanted to believe her. But something in her eyes, a glint of something cold and calculating, made me hesitate. Before I could ask her any more questions, there was a panicked knock on my office door. It was my assistant manager, Jenna, looking worried and pallid. "We have an issue, Sheila," she remarked. "Over $5,000 is missing from the cash register. There's a serious shortage." We examined the books and double-checked the data for several hours. There was no error. A sizable sum of money had disappeared. That register was only accessible to Jenna, Marco, and Sarah. I'd known Marco and Jenna for a long time. They had supported me through all of the highs and lows since the beginning. I gave them my life in confidence. Sarah approached me as though she could read my mind. "You know, I've noticed Jenna staying late a lot lately," she muttered. She also recently purchased the elegant new automobile. I realized I had to make a choice as I watched her go. I was unable to ignore this. Too much was on the line: my company, my reputation, and the jobs of all my devoted staff members. After everyone had left for home late one evening, I put covert cameras all around the cash registers. I had no choice but to do it, even though it felt bad to breach my staff's confidence. I watched hours of boring footage for days, staring at the screen until my eyes hurt. And then, the fourth night, I caught sight of it. Sarah, opening the register with a swift and stealthy motion. She quickly reached in and out to tuck large amounts of cash into her pockets. My heart fell. I stayed away from her. I was unable to. Rather, I made a police call. 2 policemen entered the building the following day as Sarah was wrapping up her shift. I knew everything I needed to know from the look of disbelief and then rage on her face when she saw them. She threw herself around, smashing dishes onto the floor and toppling tables. "This money is mine to keep. I ought to be wealthy, not you. My life was stolen by you." I felt nothing as the cops dragged her away, not sorrow or sadness, just an empty hole where my love for my sister had once been. My parents barged into the restaurant the following day. Dad's face was beet red with rage, and Mom was crying. "How could you?" Dad gave a yell. "Even your own sister! Put an end to the accusations right away. I refused to back down. She did not give it to me. She should accept the consequences." I took out my phone and showed them the video that Sarah had stolen. I said, "Look, this is what your darling Sarah did. She is a pilferer." Their pale faces observed, but their emotions hardened rather than understanding. "You baited her. You've always harbored envy for her. I was hearing things that I couldn't believe." "Envious? Are you joking with me? You expected me to be grateful for the scraps you provided me. I'm done now, though. Sarah has to live with the decisions she made." They cried out and screamed, alternating between pleading and threats, but I refused to back down. "Leave. At last," I said. "Leave my restaurant now. Leave my life behind." "I'm going to call the cops if you don't go right away." Dad spit out, "You'll regret this, Sheila," before they went. Take note of what I just said. It was an awful trial. I was about to start doubting myself after Sarah's emotional testimony on the stand, but then her former supervisor showed up as a surprise witness. He testified to Sarah's actions at her previous work, including her relentless pursuit of him, her threats of sexual harassment in response to his rejection of her overtures, and her theft of money from the company as payback. Ultimately, the jury returned a guilty verdict. She gave me one more look before they dragged her away. Her eyes were filled with icy anger rather than regret. Since that day, I haven't spoken to my family. I occasionally question my decision late at night. However, when I take a closer look at what I created and the life I've chosen for myself, I can see that I did. I feel a wave of calm come over me as I watch my team in the kitchen of my newest restaurant get ready for the influx of diners. My family is now this. This is where I live. And no one can take that away from me, not Sarah, not my parents, nor anybody.